Welcome back everyone, it's Charlie. This will be my video for the Batman Beyond movie that we just found out that they had been in the middle of making when everything has been canceled or delayed because of what James Gunn did when he took over DC Studios and then sort of reimagining everything, redoing the continuity so to speak, like soft reboot on everything. I'll explain what was supposed to happen during that and what's changing going forward now with all the big Justice League characters, particularly with Batman. This is more of a Batman video specifically. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. I'll be doing a bunch of videos for everything because it's still a developing situation. Like James Gunn made an announcement. I talked about what he said specifically, like I included his actual message in my Wonder Woman 3 video yesterday because that movie pretty much flat out canceled. But after the opening salvo was fired, like after we started hearing about them canceling projects, actors moving on, they recasting some of the big Justice League actors, basically doing a version of what James Gunn did with the Suicide Squad movie in the previous Suicide Squad film, where it's kind of canon, but it was a soft reboot with the new characters. His way of winking from behind the camera, addressing the change in the continuity. Like some of the old actors, some of the old movies go away, so to speak, and some of them continue on. Not everybody's going to be recast. But where we get to Batman Beyond and Michael Keaton is the Flash movie. It all starts with the Flash movie. They're still releasing all the movies that they have planned for next year. None of that's changed. There are a couple of things that happened during those movies that might wind up changing, like Henry Cavill filmed a post-credit scene specifically as Superman for the Flash movie that might not wind up making it into the movie is a bit of a question right now because of Henry Cavill's future as Superman at DC Studios, the DC movies. And Ben Affleck also filmed a cameo scene as Batman for the end of Aquaman 2, which is supposed to come out at the end of next year. There's also a question about whether or not that will actually make it into the final cut of the film too. But as for right now, Michael Keaton is still one of the main characters during the Flash movie. That's not going to change. It's still going to be a big multiverse movie for DC. During that movie, Ezra Miller's Flash is given a brand new suit by Ben Affleck's Batman. I think that's going to pick up before the events of the film. Like there was a tie-in comic book that's supposed to explain how Batman gives him the new suit. But during that movie, they're doing a version of Flashpoint where he tries to find a way to save his mother, but winds up traveling to the Earth that Michael Keaton's Batman is from. We'll call that Earth 89 now. They might have some different designation for it that they call out during the Flash movie. But most of the events take place on that alternate Earth where the Michael Keaton Batman movies took place. The way that they're explaining his character is that he's only been through the events of Batman and Batman Returns. They're treating Val Kilmer, Batman Forever, and George Clooney, Batman and Robin, as completely separate universes. Like all that stuff happened, but they happened on other Earths, not on Michael Keaton's Earth. When he travels to that Earth, this other version of him, this other Barry Allen, is meant to be the villain of the film. You can see he wears a Flash costume that's cobbled together from the bones of an old Batman Michael Keaton suit. So it's kind of like Flash versus Dark Flash, and this other Barry Allen just seems like he has problems with the whole idea of their mother's death when he finds out that they can actually change the timeline and potentially bring her back to life. That's basically what the Flashpoint story is all about, is Barry Allen learning to accept his mother's death. Like some things have to happen. Like you can't change the timeline on a whim because it leads to disastrous consequences, and that's kind of what plays out through the Flash movie. It's not going to be like comic book Flashpoint. They did an animated Justice League Flashpoint movie as well. It won't be exactly like that, but it'll have the same vibes. At the end of that movie, after they fix most things, probably not everything, but some things, Ezra Miller's Flash is supposed to return to the main Justice League universe with the idea that there would be more interdimensional travel in the future, teasing the idea that the characters across the multiverse will continue to team up. Like we have an idea for how to travel the multiverse in a more reliable way now, so that anybody they want could potentially come back in the future. Arguably for Michael Keaton, I think that they had initially thought to set him up as the new crossover Batman because Matt Reeves didn't want to have Robert Pattinson's Batman crossover, and this is all long before James Gunn signed on to take over as the Kevin Feige of DC Studios. During his big announcement post, James Gunn addressed this, like, I understand I'm stepping into a very fractious environment, things are all over the place. One of the things that was addressing was the whole Batman situation. Like, if Ben Affleck is leaving and Robert Pattinson isn't going to cross over, we have to have a Batman. If we're going to do future Justice League films, who's going to be that Batman? For a little while, the plan was to have Michael Keaton be the crossover Batman, and he would play the sort of old mentor role. And they would just tease that concept at the end of the Flash movie. But separately after the end of the movie, Michael Keaton's Batman would have gone on to star in the Batgirl movie. I've already done a video about that because that was one of the other canceled movies. It was much more public because it happened a little while ago. It got a lot more play in the news because it was more of an isolated incident a while ago, and all this stuff just got announced all at the same time, like a bunch of different movies, a bunch of different actors. Also, too, because the Batgirl movie was essentially finished, like it was picture locked, ready to go. They could have dropped it or leaked it, quote unquote, on purpose, kind of, the next day. Obviously, they didn't because the people that directed it tried to log into the servers to grab a copy of it, and within moments of the announcement being made, they'd been locked out of the servers. The thing about the Batgirl movie is that the way they treated the continuity, the Easter eggs, all the characters from across the multiverse were a little nebulous, like it was kind of vague as to which Earth it took place on. There were a lot of Snyderverse Easter eggs during it, so it was like, is it happening on the Snyderverse Earth? Is it happening on the main Justice League Earth so far? Obviously that's changing going forward. Or is it set on the Earth that Michael Keaton's Batman is from? They never really answered that during the events of the film. But during that movie, Michael Keaton's Batman wasn't meant to be a main character. The way that they talked about it, they called it more of a glorified cameo where he shows up, gives her some advice, and acknowledges their previous relationship, his relationship with Jim Gordon, her father. It was going to be the Snyderverse version of Jim Gordon coming back, the J.K. Simmons Jim Gordon. That's why I say they were kind of vague as to which Earth it took place on with all the Easter eggs. But he'd show up, give her some advice, then go off on his own, she'd go off on her own day to day and just become a superhero in her own right. Then after that is when we get to the live-action Batman Beyond movie. After that, he would go on to the Batman Beyond film. And it would have been in the same tone, the same vibe from the Batman Beyond animated series, with a version of live-action Terry McGinnis becoming the next Batman, taking the mantle, getting the new Batman Beyond suit. It wouldn't have been a copy-paste version of the animated series, like it would have been the exact same plot. Michael Keaton is in his 60s right now. He's not that old. Kevin Conroy's Batman was meant to be a future version of the same one from Batman the Animated Series in his 80s. May he rest in peace now. Kevin Conroy was amazing. Before he passed away, though, he did get to play a live-action version of Batman during Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Battle not with monsters, lest you become a monster.
In Batman Beyond, I played an older Bruce Wayne. He still had hope for the world.
I can barely walk, let alone wear that again.
This Bruce Wayne, he's become so broken and so embittered by life that he sees no hope for the world.
The Bruce I knew wore a different kind of suit.
Lifetime of injuries.
The point of this exoskeleton is to support his body because he's been so beaten and broken that he would not be able to stand up without it. And then they turn it on, and I go, no, I never thought I'd get a chance to do it on camera because I was getting older and older and older. I was sort of aging out of Batman, you know. But luckily, I aged into old Bruce Wayne.
That version was meant to be an amalgam of Kingdom Come Batman with the harness and Batman Beyond, the Bruce Wayne from that series, because the Earth that was taking place on was Earth 99, and the 99 was a reference to the Batman Beyond series, which debuted in 1999. But I believe they would have set up the idea that he passes the mantle to a version of live-action Terry McGinnis, and he plays a version of the character that you saw in the animated series. And they would just continue those movies on in its own line of continuity in the future. So I think one of the reasons why James Gunn put the kibosh on that project before they start filming is because they don't want to have a billion different versions of live-action Batman. It was already kind of confusing to begin with. Like, I am excited to see Michael Keaton come back as a version of multiverse Batman. But really, if we're talking about a main version of Batman, you only want one, and that's technically supposed to be Matt Reeves, Robert Pattinson Batman. He even has his own line of continuity. Even though they have all these big changes happening at DC, they're not changing anything about what Matt Reeves is doing with his version of Batman. It's still in its own self-contained universe for now. Of all the craziness, they said that they weren't touching a couple things. They weren't going to mess with anything that Matt Reeves was doing with his version of Batman, and they're not messing with anything that Todd Phillips is doing with his version of Joker. So like Joker 2 is going to do its own thing, the Batman 2 going to do its own thing. They have all the HBO spin-offs like the Arkham series, the Penguin series that they're doing from Robert Pattinson's Batman. Those will continue on in development like they had originally planned. The Penguin series will be the first one to premiere. That won't happen until 2024 though. Of all the craziness that's happening right now, just big reminder that they're still releasing all the movies next year. They still have Shazam, Fury of the Gods coming out normally. No big changes there. The Flash movie during the summer, then the Blue Beetle movie, then Aquaman 2 at the end of the year. I know there's still tons of questions about what's happening with Henry Cavill Superman. Which actors will they actually wind up recasting amongst the Justice League? I'll do a separate video about that because even Jason Momoa has already talked about Aquaman 2 being his last movie as Aquaman. Make sure you enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss that. There's just so much stuff that happened in the last couple of weeks. Like I said, it's a developing situation, so I will continue to do new videos as we get more information about what James Gunn's actual plan is for the next 10 years of DC. As of me posting this video, he's making an official presentation to the Warner Brothers board, the CEO, about what that plan's going to be, and then they'll probably make more public announcements on his Twitter account about the future of the universe. Speaking of James Gunn, I just did a big Guardians of the Galaxy 3 trailer video. Click here to watch that. And click here for my brand new Star Wars Jedi Survivor trailer video with Mandalorian and Ahsoka Easter eggs. Thank you so much for watching. Everyone stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.